WEFM is SVG.
28 minutes on to 11 o'clock here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You're locked on to WEFM 99.9, the Clean Fresh Sound, and this is your It's Your Turn program. Remember, It's Your Turn is an interactive program, so the numbers to call are 457-9997 if you're calling from a local landline, 532-9997 if you're calling from a digital cell phone, or you can send us a message or call us on WhatsApp at 457-9997. The It's Your Turn program is being hosted by Mr. Cecil Ryan, Mr. Philbert, and Mr. Joel Providence. Good morning to you, Cecil.
Good morning to you, Karen, and good morning to my comrades and colleagues in studio, Pijan and Joel, and good morning to all our listeners. And I want to reach out especially to our guests today. We'll come to that later on, but we have been joined by three persons representing the Dynamite's Cultural Organization. I feel like the Dynamite's got up to 10 New York based. We would introduce them in a while, but as usual, we want to go to our preliminaries. But even before I do that, my colleagues have to introduce themselves, and I just want to recognize our listeners via Star FM and Garifuna Radio. So, Pijan, over to you.
Cecil, thank you, and good morning, Joel, good morning, Kiran. Good morning to our special guests that are listening to us. And it's good to be back. Another edition of It's Your Hand. And as usual, we promise you interesting, exciting discussion. Joel?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pijan, Cecil, Kiran. Good morning. Good to be on this program. We have a good number of things to talk about, and the agenda is indeed packed, but I'm particularly excited to hear from our friends in New York, some of whom I have been associated with them for quite a very long time, particularly in the area of culture. I would like to say a special good morning, Cecil and Pijan, before I turn back over to you, Cecil, to my good friend Steve Wiley, who was had another birthday, another turn around the sun, another one. And I just wanted to especially acknowledge the fact that I've had an association with two or three guys, very, very close association, which now exceeds 50 years. And an enduring friendship like that means a lot to many of us. And I trust you guys would have similar situations to speak of. But I, in particular, would like to speak of my good colleagues, Steve Wiley and Bentley Brown, with whom we have been since being classmates back in the grammar school many, many years ago. It's now, as I mentioned, it's now over 50 years. And I would like to particularly make that statement and to acknowledge Steve as he celebrates this important day.
All right, so I just want to endorse the acknowledgement of Steve's birthday, Steve Wiley. I hope he's listening so he could hear you and he could hear us. I also want to say that Prime Minister Dr. Gonzalez is listening to this program this morning, as he usually does, and he has promised that if he finds it necessary and convenient, he will call the program sometime later on. So I just want to let all our guests and our listeners know that we're likely to hear from Prime Minister Gonzalez. Of course, last week, Friday, was the debate on the estimates, which went into the Thursday, went into the wee hours of Friday morning. And then the Prime Minister himself jetted off to Venezuela to be present on the swearing in of President.
He and two other ministers.
Yes.
Minister Caesar and Minister Stevenson.
All right. And he's back in country. And it's, as I said, he's more than likely to call our program later on. So it's an amazing man with an amazing amount of energy. We have to acknowledge that and hail him up for that. So, gentlemen, I think we all have a few things we want to raise. I'll let you go for a speech, and if there's any particular point.
Nothing at the moment.
Nothing? Well, Joel, I know Joel has some.
Yes, two things. I'll speak perhaps with the less heavy one first.
Okay.
Yesterday, I was at the St. Vincent Beach Stadium yesterday afternoon.
Oh, because I was going to say I was there, but long, all before you.
Yes. And there were quite a number of vehicles there. Were probably about 30 or 40 vehicles there, right? And I went and I spent a good bit of time to witness the development meet of the St. Vincent Grenadines Athletic Association, or what is called now. So there are lots of youngsters were there, including 9-year-olds, 11-year-olds, right up to young women, 19, including persons such as Keo Davis, with whom we are all familiar, and so forth. And it is my understanding in speaking with Keith Joseph and others who were there that this is part of a program which went back to last August. Mm-hmm. It's an annual thing where the clubs, there's a meet by and large of clubs, and that they will get certain financing for the clubs to have their own organized fitness training and mentoring, that kind of thing. And they'll have programs to take them through the year. And then as the calendar year is, then they have these series of development meets. So every weekend, you're going to have, from now to the end of January, you're going to have these meets with these young athletes as they get themselves in gear for the season, and as they try to make to improve their performance at their respective school sports, and then to make the standard for the Carifta Games coming up. I believe it's in March, and I think I saw one high jumper who did exceptionally well. I think he got to his 195 mark in terms of height. So he met the standard and so on. And there were some persons with potential, but overall, what I just wanted to say, regardless of the times, that I appreciated the kind of program and effort that is put in now to develop our young athletes and so forth. And I think that we are on the way overall. So I say how things come together nicely. So you have the developing facility, which is the St. Vincent Beach Stadium, which is very important and so forth. And it makes it easier for the organizers to lay out, to have a track, a good international track to use, and then for the athletes to use it, and hopefully they'll have like the nutritionists and the coaches and everybody coming together. And I think it was a very important exercise, and I encourage persons next Saturday, or this Saturday upcoming, to go out to the St. Vincent Beach facility and witness what our young people are doing with regard to athletics. And then I remember when a comment was made by the Prime Minister a few days ago in relation to this. And, we talk about the alternatives to crime and so on. We have talked about pan against crime and so forth. And here it is, we have young athletes and so on. And it's so positive. It reflects so much and so well about our young people and what we as older persons can do to facilitate the focus and development of our young people along particular. You have a talent, there's an opportunity, and so forth. And it's pleasing to see that this is where St. Vincent and the Grenadines is in terms of athletics, in terms of sports, in terms of culture. We'll be talking about culture in a short while, and generally in addition to education and so forth. And it really was pleasing. So I would just like to encourage persons to venture out to the St. Vincent Beach Stadium. I assume that they would be okay with me promoting these events and so on and so forth. So let's see if we can get there and then witness the young athletes in action. I also my only other introductory comment, Cecil and Pigeon, relates to the budget exercise at a national level, but I am not today going to comment on the estimates or the budget to come, which you hear in earnest from the throne speech and then the Minister of Finance's presentation tomorrow afternoon. It begins. So I'm not going to speak to that today, but I just generally want to talk overall about the process. Just wanted to make a broad comment. Firstly, a budget is really a plan. Some person may say it's a financial plan, but it's okay. Let's say it covers the financial plan because it speaks about revenue and expenditure, but it's related to an overall development program or development focus for the year ahead and then beyond and so forth. But what I wanted to say, this is the government, and sometimes, or if they have to, if they need to, if they desire, the opposition rebutting the presentation. They don't have to rebut, they can agree, and so on, or agree on some things and they can disagree on another thing. That is all well par for the course. But what I really wanted to say is that the budget and so on for 2025 at a national level must feed into an overall vision as to what all of us want for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, the government, from time, I know they would have a 25-year plan, a 20-year plan, and so on. I'm talking about governments generally, and so forth. But these plans are by and large related to the work of the government, which impacts on all of us, but by and large, it comes from the perspective of what their mandate is as the government and the public service as a whole. And I'm just raising for your consideration, Pijan and Cecil, whether or not that, first and foremost, that should we be reinforcing that vision as to the kind of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that we want. When I say we, I'm talking about all of us, not just the parliamentarians, as to say, okay, this is the plan for 2050 or 2030 or 2040. And this is what St. Vincent and the Grenadines is going to look like in terms of all dimensions of life, in terms of, and let me start with on the side of entertainment, relaxation, leisure, then health and so forth, communication, commuting from one place to another and so forth. And the just general issue of love, peace, harmony, togetherness, and so forth. This is what St. Vincent and Grenadines will look like. And this is what we are working to. And this budget feeds into that vision of St. Vincent and the Grenadines down the road. And every night that we need to reinforce that. But it is not for the government nor the opposition for that matter alone, is to come up with a bit. And I just wonder that every year, whether if we have presentations in the month of January, maybe we can, you're going to just have it in December, but let's say at the start of the year, that why can't we have also the report card and the plan for important national stakeholders, as our friend Kwame said, the non-geos, the non-state actors. So we can say how all of this feeds into this particular vision for the kind of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that we want. Why can't we, for example, hear from the medical fraternity in terms, not so much in terms of the physical facilities and so forth that may come up in a budget in terms of the number of clinics here and there and so forth. Yeah, those can feed in as a requirement. But by and large, where are we in terms of health? How many cases of this we have heard from the Minister of Health some time ago about the issue of heart attacks being the primary cause of deaths and so forth. But by and large, where are we in terms of our overall health in St. Vincent and Grenadines? And they can have a discussion on that. So you can actually present a report card on health and the wellness of Vincentians once a year. That you can hear the same term in terms of all those who have something to do with the legal and law enforcement fraternity in St. Vincent and Grenadines, where we are generally in terms of obeying the law, where the laws are and so forth, and how are we in terms of doing everything that is required. And the same thing, the farming community, the Chamber of Commerce. There's no reason why the Chamber of Commerce must alone be responding to the budget and find out what tax incentives there might be in the budget. That is not enough. And so let us say what's happening in terms of the business community at all levels. What's happening in terms of the distributive trade and manufacturing and retail trade, and in services, including hospitality and so forth, from St. Vincent right down and the Grenadines and so on combined, where we generally, what's happening in terms of investment by the private sector into businesses and the business community, and just talk about it, or tell us about your challenges. Sometimes there are exogenous factors and so forth that come into play that prevent us from doing certain things that impact on the cost of living. We've heard time and again that inflation is by and large externally driven, but how we're countering it, what are the alternatives and so forth to make life a little bit easier for the Vincentian people. And these are the kinds of things I believe that I would want to hear from everybody, the non-state actors. Let us hear from you as well once a year, and so on, and present the picture so that we can pull everything together. All of us, you can hear, so let's say you take the whole month of January and so forth. You find your time, you find your place within the month, and then you talk. It doesn't have to be a lengthy discussion, but maybe it could be 3, 4, 5-page presentation that you may wish to make, but share it, and that we can, as Vincent just can say, this is where we are in terms of the realization of that vision of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines that we want, and what we want it to look like come 2030 and 2035. One just last thing I just forgot to add, Cecil and Pijan. As I mentioned before the start of the program, on my way coming to the studio here at WEFM, I decided something just flashed my mind in terms of drivers wearing seatbelts. So I made a check from Hospital Road of the oncoming traffic right down to Camden Park. And I think I checked 19 or 20 vehicles. And I couldn't see, my gaze couldn't penetrate the drivers of about 6 of the vehicles because of the tint. But I saw, was able to see 14, some had the windows down, I was able to see it. And there were 3 persons, 3 of the 14 were wearing seatbelts. And I can't speak about the 6 that I say, maybe not. But let's take 3 or 14, I don't know what percentage. And you don't necessarily cannot, because it is just an arbitrary thing on a Sunday morning. But you can't just take that as a something scientific. But it is a casual, anecdotal indicator of where we are with regard to the wearing of seatbelts. And it's a different situation today than when we were beating the message and so on, encouraging persons to recognize the merit of wearing seatbelts 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever time it was. But persons now, for whatever reason, feel that it is more appropriate not to wear the seatbelt. And first of all, I just want to say that messaging is important, and persons, I think the vast majority acceded to the message put out by the police and the state as a whole. And it didn't come down necessarily to traffic police stopping you and saying, well, okay, if you're not wearing the seatbelt, here's a ticket, here's a case, and so on. But persons have to wearing the seatbelt. But for some reason now, the message is beginning to wear off. And I think public service announcements on this thing, and you can use the social media, you can use the radio, you could use so many different forums which you can get the message across. It's a very powerful way, and we talked about before. We can do the same thing with regard to, we talked about crime and other things and so forth. And I just want to say, on the question of the seatbelts alone, on this question, maybe we just need to return to getting the message out.
You observe the traffic, but did you observe the sign? There's a sign in Gibson Corner, buckle up.
Except this sign is on
yes, I recall the sign, but I didn't observe the sign on this particular occasion. No, I didn't observe it on this particular occasion.
I'm just saying to suggest that the authorities have a consciousness of what you're talking about, it would appear. That hence, at least that one sign that I noticed coming in Gibson Corner, buckle up.
Yes, and I think if I'm not mistaken, there might be one at Castle too. I'm not sure. I can't recall, but it is there, and we use like Jules Williams and partner have a electronic display board at Arnesville.
Sign Hill.
Yeah, going. Oh, wait, sorry, at
Sign Hill.
Sign Hill. Yes, at Sign Hill and so forth. And we should have a couple more around St. Vincent and Grenadines, by the way. It's easier for messaging, better control. And I think that we should use it. So they're you can do all sorts of things rather than just using a straight still image with a message. You can do animated them that to send a particular message. You can change it around and support as you so choose.
Yeah, all right. First of all, to your audience, first point, Joel, I endorse the, what do you call it? Hope you, the promoters and producers of the program, the athletics program don't mind. I'm sure they won't mind you talking, and you spoke highly of the event and the initiative. On the venue itself, just want to remind our listeners that it's under construction still, and I think it's coming on nicely. I noticed the inner football field. The grassing is really nice. Really,
Yes.
It's happening very in a nice way. Although I have to say this, as part of you guys know that I go there, and some listeners know that I go there very early on mornings to do my little thing. And one morning I was there some time ago, 2-3 weeks ago. I had a misfortune. There's a 2-inch pipe across the track that brings water from the stream nearby to the field itself, which Minister of Finance had explained on this program, and I kind of stumbled over it, fell almost on my face. But anyway, it worked out for the good that it reminded me that I need to pay a lot of attention to where I put my feet in that early part of the morning. But yes, it's under construction and it's coming along neatly. The administrative building, at least one of them, is also it's in progress. And so it's a good thing. And like you, Joel, I want to encourage persons who have the interest to go out there and support the youngsters, see what the facilities are like, how they're coming. And Minister did say earlier that the facilities will be lighted this year. So that'd be good. I'm sure that'd be announced in the budget again. So yes, I support you in making the plea for others to go there. On the question of the seat belt, remember we mentioned last week the whole importance of PSA, public service announcement. That here is another occasion where these radio stations, if ought to be required to, in their programming each day, do something about those public interest areas like crime, wearing seat belts, and so on and so forth. I mean, don't take too much from the DJs who are on, they're exciting and so on, but they can spend a minute or two, putting in these announcements, even as people are listening to them. And I think it's a requirement that the authority should make of the radio stations. Isn't that much?
Yeah, and if I can just interject, well, it's good that we have like Rajiv Providence, who's right here on compound with us at this particular as program manager at WEFM. Okay. So I think he can certainly take it up and let WEFM be the lead on this.
Yeah, and because of reduction of crime, and the wearing of seat belts and so on, those things that are of particular interest to the public and relevance. So Rajiv, I hope you're taking our suggestion. Gentlemen, there's an article. I just want to, well, first of all, I usually read the columns put out by the political parties. And this morning I read the one put out by the New Democratic Party in 2 papers, the News and the Vincentian. And in both of them, I noticed where it is said by I think they were quoting the Dr. Friday saying that, and the line that I'm referring to is a factual line, basically saying 1 in 5 persons are employed. I thought it was a typo, so I looked back, I checked both columns. And the next line was that there's 40% unemployment among young people. Now, if 1 in 5 persons are employed, it means 4 of 5 persons are not employed. And it is wrong, totally wrong. That's why I'm raising it, because it's factually wrong. It's not a matter of opinion, it is factually incorrect. And it needs to be looked at. And maybe the NDP may wish to change that statement in their column for next week, because it is wrong. I just wanted to raise that point. And in the Searchlight newspaper, on page 9, Renwick Rose, as chairman of the Solidarity Inc., wrote to the editor to pay tribute to the passing of Paulina Batiste. And I thought it was so important and timely that I decided to kind of look at it and even echo what Renwick had said in his column, in his tribute. It says, the chairman, board of directors, and of the staff of Solidarity Inc. express its deepest condolence to the relatives of our dear sister Paulina Batiste. She was the secretary to the board, but meant more than that to the company, playing a key role at not just board level, but in helping to support and nurture members of staff, particularly the female staff, and providing support and guidance. And it goes on to talk about the person she is. One thing he didn't say, that she was a staunch member of the United People's Movement. She was a loyal member. And I remember when I had cause to interact with her, she was always what Renwick said here, a sweeter soul one cannot imagine, giving practical expression to her deep faith and always a source of positivity. She has had a rich history of contribution and was one of the bedrock pioneers, and that is true, pioneers of both early childhood education and adult education in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, helping to pave the way for the state institutions which are now in charge of these areas. It was yet another practical demonstration of the critical role that working class women have played in critical areas of development, and that should be our development. Sister Paulina was always ready to seek for and implement forward-looking solutions to challenges, and was a very kind and cooperative member of our organization, meaning Solidarity Inc. She will not only be sorely missed, but also forever treasured and remembered. And I really want to endorse that, because Paulina, in my estimation, is in the tradition of my sister and comrade Orlean Horn. And I remember Camo. You guys may not remember Camo, was from Paul's Avenue. Yes, she like Paulina. As if the energy was endless, and they went out of their way to work for the cause, you know. And there are others in that tradition, working class women. And I really wanted to say how much I treasure her contribution to our development.
I want to endorse the comments you made on the article by Renwick. One of the things I want to say too is that we tend not to hear these people's names mentioned.
Yes, and
among the elites.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to remember them.
Yeah, because they've been there silently, but certainly making contributions to our development.
But how do we remember them? Do we remember them when they are dead? Do we remember them when they're ill, and so forth? And with that memory, how long is it going to last? I mean, and I know this feeds into the discussion that we'll have about
Last,
no,
yes.
and also to the culture.
Oh yeah, it would feed
and
into
forth
that.
after.
Okay,
But
yes.
how do we create a lasting memory for these persons and their contributions and so on? And we can talk about that in terms of later on in the program.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, their contributions themselves would be the foundation of that. It's there. Nobody can doubt that. These are experiences which cannot be doubted. But I mean, I agree with you, Joel, that we have to find ways of making it popular, the memory popular, and to make it there always for all of us to see and to be reminded that these folks have made lasting impact and contributions and impact on our development. So yeah, I just thought,
Cecil?
yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to your previous. I'll be very brief on it. When you put out figures, statistics, information in numbers, sometimes people assume that they are correct, because we would not be so bold to put out numbers unless they were, and there's a source that is a source of integrity and so forth, and that they're generally correct and so on. So when it was mentioned that there's 1 in 5 persons are employed, now you can actually, this could very well be so if you're saying that there are 100,000 persons in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and therefore only 20,000 persons are employed. Now, but what you're doing there is you're not speaking, and if this is the reason why this is put out this way, you're not necessarily speaking about the working population, the labor force that the persons with the labor market can absorb and so forth. Are you talking about the 5-year-olds or the 75-year-olds and so forth? And then even if you speak in terms of the those who are employable, then I think the figure is still incorrect. I mean, because if we are saying that based on the NIS, that is 38,000, 40,000 persons, certainly registered with the NIS as being employed, whether or not they are working 12 months in the year or 9 months or whatever the case may be, but they are and have been employed gainfully during the course of a particular period in question. And that does not tally up in terms of the 1 in 5. So to my mind, I think that, first of all, that the 1 in 5 is off. On the 40%, again, I don't know, but sometimes quite often you really need to state the source and to defend your number rather than just put it out. I'm not saying that in every article that you have to say this for every little detail and so on, go to this document or whatever it is, or go to a World Bank report or whatever it is. But certainly you have to defend it, because sometimes we put out things and we can't defend it when the time comes, and then it's an embarrassment for all in question. So in this one, I support you in terms of what you said, and certainly that the first of all, the 1 in 5 does not jive with the 40% of the youth, unless there is, not entirely, it possibly could, but certainly the 1 in 5 is, to my mind, is wrong. The issue of the national debt, we can speak about that. I think
we can come back to that.
I'll leave that until next week.
Yeah. Well, after the budget presentation. Yeah, but I just wanted to say that no matter how you look at that thing that I read from the NDP's column, it is just pure wrong. And if you consider yourself any serious entity or person, before you put something like that in a statement, you ought to check it and make sure that it's correct. Otherwise, it's very misleading. And that is, I am just raising the factual nature of it. That's all. No politics, none. It's very misleading, and it ought not to be there. And for persons coming from someone who is the leader of one of the major political parties, people, certainly the members of the party, can see it and think that it is correct, but it is not correct. And I'm just checking it for the factual nature of it. That's all.
What I just want to, and again, we'll come to that next week, just to add though, is if anything is, we put out a budget, and this is from time immemorial, that we end up, when, especially with regard to the capital budget, that then you find 1 year later that perhaps no more than 30 or 35% of what you had planned to spend is spent, right? So is it there a case of, is that you're hopeful? Is it reasonable? You're looking to spend this money and then you don't come close for what's happening in terms of the execution and so on. But this is not something that is 5 years in terms of thing, or 10, 15, or 20. This is going back as far as I could recall, 35, 40 years ago and so on. In fact, particularly in relation to the capital. So these are the kinds of things that you can spend time on. Say if you could say you're going to do this and you fall short by 10% or you go over by 10%, then you can say, well, okay, that is within the range of reasonableness. But if you are certainly 50, 60% below and so forth, in terms of the revenue or even in terms of expenditure, you go over by a significant amount. Well, you'll probably have to go back to Parliament for supplemental budget anyhow. But these are the things that you can talk about, but just don't put in things in the pit, because we have a responsibility, the government, the Minister of Finance and his team, and also the opposition. They have a responsibility to relate the facts as they should be to the people of St. Vincent.
We would come back next week to look at those things you're raising there, Joel, because it would be after the presentation and debate on the budget figures. So we would definitely come back to them. And as usual, and Pigeon, remember that, I'm sure, that every year we invite Professor Justin Robinson to comment. I've kind of alerted him, but we haven't sent him the formal invitation.
I want to go back to Joel's general comment about the budget process. Were you advocating some form of national consensus as you approach the budget exercise?
Yeah, but let's say January overall should be the budget month for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not just for the government, not just for the Parliament, right? But that I am also saying that all non-state actors on a national front need to also be making their contribution, not to that particular budget, but to see the state of affairs as it relates to the area for which they have great interest, concern, and responsibility. Let us know. I mean, if you, like I mentioned, the Chamber of Commerce, let us know what is the state of the private sector and so on, what is happening in terms of economic activity at all levels: manufacturing, wholesale, retail, services, goods, and so forth. Let's say what's happening there and so on. The number of persons employed in the private sector. And the same thing would apply to the legal fraternity, the medical fraternity, the farming community, and the like.
And in such a forum, how do we get past the partisanship that is generally associated?
Well, but because it shouldn't be. But that's the point I'm trying to make. It should not necessarily be feeding into or dependent on what the budget exercise in Parliament. They just simply need to speak to what is happening in India, for which they have significant responsibility. Speak and tell us what is happening. They don't have to go and say, this is what's happening. Maybe you might have one person might just say, well, maybe because I didn't get this from the government or I didn't get that and so on. But by and large, speak to things as they are, given the realities before you and so forth, and what effort you're putting in to make sure that we all take our respective sectors, areas of economic and social endeavor towards the fulfillment, towards the realization of this particular vision for St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 5 or 10 years' time.
I'm sure that whoever is contributing or is responsible for compiling the information that goes into the budget, that they have some idea, if not written, certainly they have it someplace, as to what the figures are meant to fulfill or to realize. But I do agree, we need to have a framework, not only a framework, but also some way of getting the process going that you can bring those entities together and look at the statements in terms of what they're trying to fulfill for the expenditure that they're trying to make. And I think that is the elements to me I find missing, the framework and the entity to take the lead to ensure that the input from all these different sectors are in there. I know when I say sectors, I mean also not only state, but non-state actors, as you're saying, Joel.
Yes. Now, it is true that this government, particularly the Ministry of Finance, meets with some of these.
Yeah.
So they'll meet with the farming community, they'll meet with the Chamber of Commerce, they'll meet, and so forth. So they do meet, and so on. I don't know to what degree it impacts on the framing of the budget, because quite generally, most times it's quite late in the process. But in any event, I just still wanted to speak not so much to when I say you, like let's say the Chamber of Commerce. You don't necessarily have to speak to what was said in Parliament or will be said in Parliament in relation to the budget exercise for a given year. I just want you to just talk generally as to what is happening in terms of your area, and if there's some reference required to then so be it. But by and large, I want to hear from you and the people and what the development, what the prospects are. Maybe somebody in the private sector, you may want to comment, and I want to hear the private sector, the local private sector in particular, comment on foreign direct investment. What does it mean to you? How do you feed into that? Or what does it take away from you, and so forth? And why we can get more genuine local ownership of business, particularly those in medium to large enterprises. I mentioned it before, where I would like to see more Vincentians invest, finding $5, $10, $15 million and so forth to go into certain areas, rather than just those that are dealing with the 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 and so on. And so that is where we need to do. But that is and you don't have to make it an exercise where you're going to agree or critique the budget as discussed in Parliament per se, but just simply use the time to say, okay, we have heard from the government, we have heard from the opposition in Parliament, we the people, but we also want to hear from you specifically. What's it that y'all doing, by the way, in terms of the private sector? What's it that y'all are doing in terms of helping to contribute to wellness and so on, in terms of the medical fraternity and so forth? That's what. And they don't have to be at the same time. You can do your session on a particular, happy session on a particular day. Could be the 15th of January. Another one could be on the 22nd. Another one could be the 29th, or even if you want to go to February. But certainly, I would love for all of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, from a development and a social and a nationalistic thing, to hear from all the important state and non-state actors.
All right. We are pushing against time, gentlemen, and we have to move on beyond our preliminary remarks and turn to one of the items for which we have our friends lined up to address. And this item has to do with the implementation of an, if you like, an institution or entity, a process known as Cultural Hall of Fame. And it's the brainchild of a group of cultural artists, cultural and other artists in North America. It's coming out mainly of the Dynamite's Calypso tent, the tent which is based in New York, but has participation from other people from other parts of North America, in particular Canada. And they have come up with this idea of establishing the Cultural Hall of Fame. And we have them on the program via video link up, and they're going to be telling us all about this. And I'm not going to say anything more because they're the best they're the best spokespersons for their ideas. So I'm very pleased to bring into the discussion at this point in time the group led by Carlos Rejector Providence. And I'm just going to invite him into the discussion now and ask him to introduce his colleagues. So, Rejector, greetings and welcome to the program. Happy to see you. Sorry that on your end it is still so cold, but over here welcome.
Oh yes, thank you very much, Brother Ryan. Let me say thank you to your co-host, Mr. Joel Providence and P. John, for hosting us. We want to wish you guys all the best for the new year. And thank you to all your listeners for tuning in to us today. We hope that you enjoy what we're about to share. Just before we go on, I would just like to make a quick comment on something, a couple of things I heard in the preliminary. I think Mr. Joel Providence articulated well on two subject areas. One, I was very pleased to hear about the ongoing program with the young athletes at the St. Vincent Beaches Stadium. I think that's an excellent thing that's happening because, with all the crime and stuff like that going on in the country, and, some persons would say that nothing is being done to, alleviate that and stuff like that. But I think that is one area, which would speak well, to solving that problem or assisting in solving that problem, It's all good when you can have the youths well engaged in something which is meaningful and helpful for them and the society as a whole. So I'd just like to say I'm very pleased to hear that, and I'd like to commend those who are who are running that program and stuff like that. I do hope that would be ongoing for some time. And I think Mr. Providence also made a beautiful suggestion where we should hear from, as he said, the non-GOs and the other governmental organizations, their opinion on what is needed for furtherance of these sectors. I think that's a very good idea, and that is something that I think should be pushed instead of just speaking it here. I think that's something Mr. Providence should take up with those persons, those areas, and those businesses and persons who you're talking about, because I think that's an excellent idea. I think that will help a lot. To have these people come forward and just instead of just the government ministers in charge of certain sectors. We know they do hear from their permanent secretaries and so on for the different areas like health and what have you. But it would be very nice if we could hear from the persons running those areas themselves. I think that's an excellent idea. So I just want to comment on those two things. Yes, so we want to thank you also for having us to speak on our program today. As we said, it's the Cultural Hall of Fame. With me here today, we have our General Secretary, Mr. Rudolph John, more affectionately known as Trevor. Everybody in St. Vincent and the Grenadines know Trevor. And our Vice President, Mr. Peter Burke. They're here with us today. And thank you for having us. So yes, I just want to get an indication that my colleagues are hearing me. Mr. John?
Yes, sir. Good morning to everyone.
Morning, good morning, and good to have you on.
Thank you very much. I've been listening in to your introduction, especially wishing Steve a happy birthday. Steve and I were classmates in Richmond Hill. I remember Steve. Joel, I remember you very well. Some people will know me as Dopey, as they used to call me back home. That's how I'll put it that way. Yeah. But like we just said, in a part of the program, when you were referencing Miss Batiste and her contribution, what she did, and how she should be memorialized, or individual who have contributed to whatever aspect in St. Vincent. This is exactly where we come in and what we thought of. And Peter will also expand upon it with the Cultural Hall of Fame. And you spoke eloquently on that subject. And this is where we are going to carry that on. So thank you very much for having us on. And I'll be delighted to listen and offer my contribution.
Brother Buck? Vice President Peter Buck. The Vice President seems not to be here.
He has.
He went back to sleep.
Okay.
Is that walk as in Pusky?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
So,
Okay.
oh, you got it. Yes. So
So you guys have to find a way to wake him out of his sleep.
Perhaps he's just having some technical difficulties. Yeah. So anyway, the idea of the Cultural Hall of Fame, it's something that we've been working on for the past 3 years or so. You know that Dynamites, we are the premier cultural organization here in North America. There are numerous organization groups, what have you, here, Vincentian groups here in North America. Okay, Peter Burke says he's in the guest room still. He's still in backstage. Yes. So we've been tossed.
Rejector, hold on. We're not seeing him. We ought to be seeing him if he's in backstage, but we're not seeing him. I don't know if he's having any particular difficulty, but yeah, maybe he might come in later. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes. So we've been tossing up the idea of having people recognized for their contributions in the cultural culture fair, and so we thought it would be necessary for us to take up the mantle and get this Cultural Hall of Fame going, because we know, we have a lot of persons from St. Vincent and the Grenadines who are extremely talented, who have contributed tremendously to the growth of culture, and not just culture too, in many areas. But we being the cultural organization, I decided to deal with it, with the idea of the cultural aspect of it. We have had preliminary consultations with a number of persons back in St. Vincent on the lead up to this. 2 years ago, a small delegation of us journeyed to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and held discussions with a number of persons in St. Vincent there in connection with this, to speak about the implementation and which way it should go. Persons like we met with Honorable Rene Batiste, Comrade Hugh Raggy, Sidney Hall, just to name a few, met with them and put this to them, and they were all in agreement with the idea and thought this is something that definitely should be done and stuff like that. So hence the reason we are at this stage. As Peter Walk is here, let me introduce him. Let him take up, and then I'll come back in. Vice President Peter Burke, introduce yourself.
Before he comes in, Rejected, before he comes in, I hope he's hearing me. He needs to separate he needs to put on his headphone, basically. Use a crowd, because we're having a feedback.
Peter Buck, we're getting a feedback, a terrible feedback.
All right.
Yes, anyway, so we have worked on a number of areas. We've worked out a number of areas, 5 areas that we think people should be honored in initially. Okay, the first area we have culinary arts. Because in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have a lot of great cooks. We have a lot of exceptional restaurants and stuff like that. So we thought that person should be recognized for their culinary skills. People do beverage preparations, preservation and marketing of our culinary treasures. We have the literary arts, where persons, do a lot of writing, books, what have you. And we have a lot of great writers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines who produce a number of great novels and stuff like that. Visual arts, we know in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a number of persons with very talented when it comes to visual arts. And we could go on and on. The performing arts, we know St. Vincent and the Grenadines is one of the leaders in performing arts in the Caribbean and indeed further afield. We have a number of top artists, who are recognized worldwide and stuff like that. And then we also look at legacy and heritage, those persons who, are advocates, of our cultural thing, and those who preserve and promote the traditions of our culture. We looked at that. And we are also considering a posthumous award for those persons whom you've been speaking about a while ago, that, you know, when they die, how do we remember them? So we do have that also, right? A posthumous award. I let Mr. Bork pick up here now, if his microphone is okay, and then I can come back.
All right.
Vice President, we can't hear you.
You need to unmute your mic, Book. Can you hear us, Brother Mike?
Yes, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy New Year to
All
everyone.
set.
Right. Yeah, Mr. John.
Yes,
Good
sir.
morning, sir. Old classmate from Ant Cadets, and Mr. Providence, my neighbor.
My neighbor,
Good
yes.
morning, gentlemen.
Yes.
Happy New Year. As the president, you know, so eloquently expounded, the impetus for the Hall of Fame, is essentially to honor folks in those 5 areas. You know, the icons of our culture, who have done such great things that have made us proud. The initiative is not only to acknowledge individuals and groups for their excellence across those fields. And we believe those 5 fields holistically covers every aspect of Vincentian culture. When we first initiated the idea, we and started seeking advice and input from others. We had to take pains to impress upon folks that, not because the initiative is coming from a Calypso tent. It was not a Carnival Hall of Fame. It was not a Calypso Hall of Fame. It's a Cultural Hall of Fame to cover the entirety of all the aspects that make up Vincentian culture, right? So it's just to show the collective appreciation for the myriad forms that our culture is expressed in: food, literary arts, mass creation, mass design, our prose, our poets. Heritage and legacy basically speaks to, honoring those who have promoted our connections with the Garifuna culture, those who have taken the effort to promote Carnival in general, right? So, and hopefully, we have been heartened by the public response thus far to the thing. We have launched the nomination process. You can find it online. There's a link to a Google form. We're encouraging members of the public to write complete and engaging biographies of how their nominee has contributed to Vincentian culture, and why they ought to be inducted, why they ought to be honored.
All right. So,
So
Peter, gentlemen, I think we're having a slight feedback. We're hearing Peter as he speaks. So I wonder, I don't know, Peter, if it's your end where you need to turn down your device.
everything here on my end is muted. No television on or anything like that.
Volume is it?
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Okay. So thanks for that for the introduction from all 3 of you, and we're going to come back to look at some of the details. But before we do that, tell us a bit about the Dynamite Cultural Organization. It started as the Dynamite Calypso Tent. But go on from there. Tell us how old is it in New York, and the when you added the component of culture. Tell us when you did that and why.
Well, as we know, the Dynamites, as you said, the Dynamites Calypso Tent, we started as the Dynamites Calypso Tent, the year 2020, but we had one of our first show 2001, when we really started, in earnest as the Dynamite Calypso Tent. We competed in the national Calypso competitions and stuff like that. We've been doing that all through the years. However, one of the initial ideas of the Dynamite Calypso Tent was to incorporate other aspects of the Vincentian culture all along. But we've had some challenges with it until about 6 or 7 years ago. We started, encouraging other persons to join us, and we've been putting on concerts and stuff like that, which involved drumming, poetry, gospel, and stuff like that. And the first one we did, a lot of persons loved it and thought, why weren't you guys doing this all the time instead of just, concentrating on Carnival? You only have a couple shows around Carnival time, you do your one show to launch your tent and one more for the Calypso preliminary judging and stuff like that. But we've been always working on it. So from about 7 years ago, as I said, we started incorporating other aspects of the culture, and we've been building on it ever since, because we are here in New York, and not just Calypso, and we are a lot of persons that involved in many areas of culture based here, and the Dynamites organization is for every Vincentian who wants to be a part of it, right? So that's the reason, and not just Vincentians, but we are also having a lot of persons from other countries joining us. We've had Grenadians. We have a number of Grenadians who perform with us. One of our most popular MCs is a Grenadian. We have some Grenadian Calypsonians who perform with us, like Inspector, he performs with us. Muscles, a couple of other big name Grenadians, they perform with us. We have St. Lucians who perform with us. So we are sort of expanding into a Caribbean movement at the moment. So, we thought it's necessary that we made this a cultural organization. So we have decided to change the name from just the Calypso 10 to the Dynamites Cultural Organization, which encapsulates the Dynamites Calypso 10 as well.
Is that
I have
going
something to
change?
say.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. In addition to what Carlos is saying, and as part of your program earlier, you mentioned developing programs for youths, getting them involved in in the community and away from crime. Speaking from a law enforcement point of view, this is where we are coming in, and we want to, let's say, draft youths and help to mentor them in remaining on a positive road, letting them see the real side of life rather than getting caught up in unusual activities, so to speak. So we are working towards that. We want to get the youth involved in what we are doing too, taking them away from whatever they were influenced in and bring them back into the culture that we had when we were growing up. And that is one part of what we are doing too.
All right. I was rejected. Even as you said that other nationals are involved, if you like, embraced. Is that going to change the focus of the Cultural Hall of Fame? Are you going to involve other? Are you going to include other people from other national and boundaries?
No, that is not immediately seen. That maybe years down the road, but what we see, we are a Vincentian organization, all right? So our first and foremost goal is to recognize Vincentians who have contributed and continue to contribute to our cultural development. But that does not say that we should not, try to involve other nationals and stuff like that. But that wouldn't have any effect. Or we are not thinking, at that as yet, as incorporating other nationals for honors.
Okay. Now you have given February 14 as the deadline by which nominations are to be submitted. Is that correct, right?
Yes,
that is correct. Yes, that is correct.
Tell us, give some more about the process of submission of nominations and so on.
Peter.
Well, there's a nomination form. We have there's a nomination form which allows the nominators to select the category, any of those 5, in which the potential inductee is nominated, and write a compelling biography of the potential inductees' involvement in culture, the years they got involved, some of the seminal achievements that the inductee has accomplished. Um, how have they influenced and broadened the culture? How have they brought those aspects to the fore? And we believe those 5 areas, as we said, cover the totality of culture. We are not opposed to expanding them, but for the moment, we believe that those 5 areas cover the totality.
So you receive, let's say you receive 10, 20 nominees for performing arts. How do you make the determination of who ought to be include or recognized this
But
year?
what we're doing is we're setting up a selection committee. So this all of the nomination submissions will be forwarded to that selection committee. Selection committee will meet however many times is necessary, and based on the strength of those nominations, make a determination as to who goes in this inaugural year. What we have published is to let the public know that nominations, even if your nominee doesn't get in the first year, that nominations are good. Nomination packages are good for about 5 years, and you can you can strengthen a nomination package and resubmit in coming years, and so forth. And so the selection committee will have access to all of the materials that come in, and it's important for the nominators to know that selection is going to be based purely on what you submit to our selection committee. Do not assume that we have knowledge of your nominee and that we would supplement your package with our knowledge. Please submit as total and as compelling a story on your nominee as possible, and the vetting and the selection will be left up to the selection panel.
And the person serving on the selection committee, where they're residing?
The selection committee is going to be made up of members of the Dynamite Cultural Organization as well as members of the general public. We are currently in the process of reaching out to folks who we believe could serve on the selection committee. And once we have the responses and the selection committee is set, we will publish that, and so forth, and hope that the nominations flow in. I'm personally hoping that the selection committee has a difficult job in the sense of the quality and the volume of the nominations that come in.
Is there any limit to the number of nominations or posts they could submit?
No, there's not any limitations to the number of nominations an individual can submit. But with regards to the nomination form, it should be one nominee per form.
Okay.
And just an extension of the same question that Pigeon is asking. So a person who is nominating, he or she may be able to nominate in all the different categories or just one?
Yeah, he or she can. Yes, they can. We anticipate that some folks could qualify for induction in more than one category. I won't attempt to put Dynamite's finger on the scale and mention any of those folks, but we know there's a lot of folks involved in Carnival, for example, who have been involved in multiple fields, in multiple areas, and could possibly be nominated in visual arts, for mass design, mass construction, or can possibly be nominated in performing arts. Our soca and kaiso men and women, our panis, You know, our folks are multi-talented, and their talents tend not to be confined to any one particular sphere. Again, you know, making, I hope, the work of the selection committee somewhat difficult. That's always a good thing, I think.
To what extent are you working with state as well as non-state organizations where you are and here back in St. Vincent, in Vincy?
Yes, good question. As I mentioned before, that we've had consultations with a number of persons in St. Vincent. I think it's 2 years ago. We a small committee from our organization journeyed to St. Vincent and met with persons, and we are still in consultation with those persons and the organizations back home, and we are also doing the same here in North America. We're reaching out to persons, not just in New York, but in Toronto, even London. We're speaking with persons, you know, and everybody seems to want to be a part of it. So yes, we are working feverishly with organizations and individuals, not just here in New York, but St. Vincent and the Grenadines and elsewhere.
I noticed you've said that your first commemoration ceremony will take place in New York in April. I think that's what I noticed.
Yes,
April 19th.
Right. Do you intend to have one of those commemoration exercises done back in St. Vincent and the Grenadines sometime in the future, hopefully not the distant future?
That's the aspiration. Yes, that is absolutely the aspiration. The aspiration is that eventually the induction ceremony can be such that we could rotate the locations. You know, one year in the diaspora, 1 year in the homeland. And when we say in the diaspora, our aspiration is that it need not necessarily be confined to the New York diaspora. Okay, in anywhere that there is a sizable Vincentian population where we can have the necessary assistance with the logistics of hosting the induction ceremony. But again, as I said, as of right now, those are aspirations. Yeah, but yes, that is the plan.
How is the project projected to be financed?
Well,
Well,
go ahead.
You got it, Peter?
right.
Well,
Currently, the financing of the project is we're part of the intent is to sell to produce a magazine to commemorate the function, and we currently have out a sponsorship proposal to all our usual suspects in a sense of the vendors who will typically support us. Ticket sales, also hoping to generate the necessary income. The Nazareth Hall, the Nazareth Regional High School Hall, where we are, can seat about 350 persons. So we have in circulation those amount of tickets. Tickets are available at Eventbrite. Tickets are available at Standard Shippers, Standard Caribbean Shipping, and Woodsy's Bar and Restaurant, and from any member of the Dynamite cultural organization. And we believe that between those two aspects, the sponsorships and the door receipts, it should be sufficient to cover the expenses of putting on the induction ceremony.
Sir Peter,
again, in addition to that,
what's the date, Peter?
Say again?
April 19th.
April 19th.
part of this financing should not be limited to New York only when we speak about our journals. We are extending it to persons on the mainland in St. Vincent. So we will get you involved also. Your involvement will help us to finance it because it won't cost you a lot when you place an ad in our journal. As a matter of fact, you will be giving yourself exposure from down there so that whenever we return home, we will remember that and come and support you likewise. So we are not just keeping it here in North America, we're extending it overseas likewise, as Rejecta had said previously.
To what extent is the Minister of Culture in St. Vincent involved?
We are working and involving them as part of it. My job is to communicate with them. I haven't started yet, but as of tomorrow, I will be sending out some form of communicate to get them involved because we have a timeline that we set up and we're doing it structurally. So we're taking it step by step, and they will be actually notified of it and ask for their contribution likewise.
The Hall of Fame. So this, we're speaking about the event and so on and the induction ceremony, but the Hall of Fame thereafter, is it going to be both physical and virtual?
That also is
Yes,
part of the
yes,
that also is
yes,
part of the aspiration. So the short answer to that is yes.
yes, yeah.
When we discussed it internally in the organization, that's one of the areas that we looked at, and we talked extensively about whether or not um, induction ceremonies should wait until there was a physical Hall of Fame,
Hall
and
of
we
Fame.
felt no. We felt that plus when we reached out to the general community, we had folks basically telling us that how long efforts along this line had been
Sure.
tabled by various organizations, and it's time, and a physical location we think can come again, after we have started the process, and obviously the physical location is going to be in the homeland, not based in the diaspora.
Just to extend on what you said, Peter, to Joel's question, that was one of the things that we spoke briefly with Minister Batiste, if you remember, when we met
Yes,
for the consultation back home
yes.
2 years ago. That was one of the things we spoke about. So that is the expectation that, eventually there would be some place, as you say, on the mainland, St. Vincent, on the homeland, where we can have that physical cultural hall of fame. So so that's is our intention.
Yeah, and I just want to take a moment here to make a special note of the support of Minister Batiste.
Yeah.
From the get go, she has been fully in our corner. She has
Yeah.
been in Dynamite's corner from the inception of the organization in 2000 and 2001. I am. It's gonna be difficult to identify someone who has been a stauncher supporter of the Dynamite's Calypso tent and now the Dynamite's Cultural
True.
Organization.
True.
Madam Culture, Miss Renee Batiste is, it has been, words fail me to actually explain,
You're right.
the extent of her commitment to us. It's been absolutely amazing,
Yeah.
absolutely heartening and reassuring every step.
I can
Anytime we have reached out to her for any sort of
imagine.
advice, support, she has always been there,
I
without
fully agree.
equivocation. Yeah.
True.
Gentlemen, have you sought any audience with the current Minister of Culture on this issue?
Well,
Part
as
of
the
the
general
outreach that the general
sorry.
secretary spoke about
Yeah.
will be going to the minister of culture.
Of culture. Yeah.
So yes, the as part of the magazine, I hope I'm not, kind of like stealing the general secretary's thunder. The intent is to reach out to the minister for a message in the magazine, and also his possible attendance at the induction ceremony. But um, that's essentially what they communicate to the minister and the Ministry of Culture will entail. And so once the general secretary has sent those messages, we can update the public as to the extent of the involvement of the Ministry of Culture. Let me also say to that we have had a very positive relationship with the current Consul General here in New York, Mr. Roddy
Yeah.
McDowell, as the government representative.
Macintosh.
So
No, no,
we have
no.
never, we have
Correct.
never
Peter,
Peter,
yeah.
correction.
it's
Randy McIntosh.
Macintosh.
Randy
Macintosh. Yeah.
McIntosh. My apologies. My apologies.
Yeah.
But yes, he has also been a strong supporter of our initiatives, a strong supporter of the tent. I believe after becoming CG, his first performance as his in his previous life as a Kaisonian, as an entertainer, his first performance as CG was at one of our functions.
Yeah,
All
man.
right.
So
He's an associate member of the Dynamites.
yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He is.
Gentlemen,
When the Dynamite, go ahead.
no, go ahead. You finish that thought.
I was just saying when the Dynamite School Tent has any function, people look forward to seeing Luther, and he never disappoints.
All right.
That
Okay.
is true.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure the CG is listening, and he may even
Yeah,
call
man.
in later on. But let
Yeah,
me ask:
man.
in the event that one or two or three of the nominees are based in country here in Vinci, how are they going to be? Is it expected that they would finance their own travel to New York to the first ceremony?
No, well, we'll be working with them closely to find out, if
Okay.
they're able to attend. We are working with other persons in the community who would assist, and we ourselves will try to assist in whatever way to assist their travel if they want to travel, if they are able to travel to come. Okay, so yes, we are looking at all
So
that,
I presume you're in touch. I presume the organization is in touch with entities like Caribbean Airways, American Airways, JetBlue, and so on and so forth.
Thank you for talking that. That's part of our ongoing discussion right now when we have meetings. We had our meeting last meeting just on when it was Thursday night. We had our last meeting. That would have been part of our discussions. So we are currently working on everything. We are putting things in place. Yes, we have contacts already with some of these these companies.
Entities,
so we just have to continue to approach them and stuff like that. But it's in the pipeline. Yes.
Let me just add to you folks that you have negotiating strength more than you may think, because when you recognize that the competitive activity that are taking place now between JetBlue and American Airlines, but that New York to St. Vincent run, they recognize more than anything else that the diaspora, the Vincentian diaspora in the New York area and so on, is where they want to get more. It's very important to them. And what you're doing can actually help to fuel traffic for them. Then they say, hey, they got to be on board.
Most definitely.
But that's our hope, because the Dynamite's brand is very, very desirable here in New York. And so we are hoping to capitalize on the popularity of that brand. We recently had an event where the logistics of that event did not allow us to involve all of the vendors here in New York, and we actually got complaints from vendors about being excluded. So you know that speaks to the popularity of the brand. And so we this event, this cultural hall of fame, we think is only going to strengthen the Dynamite's brand. And so we are hoping that vendors, not just Vincentian vendors, but vendors period, are gonna see that as a platform that they can capitalize on, that they can in turn benefit from, and so join us. When we first initiated the program 2-3 years ago, as the president said, there was still some legal frameworks for the organization that we have to put in place, get our 501(c)(3) tax exempt status certified by the state of New York. That's been done. So contributions that vendors make, which strengthens again the whole idea of sponsorship. Contributions that vendors make now are now tax deductible. That's always an attractive thing that we have found over the years here in New York. So yes, we have, and we're approaching JetBlue, we're approaching Caribbean Airlines, we are broadening our marketing scope beyond just the Vincentian or Caribbean diaspora here in the city.
That's right.
Does that mean that you're reaching out to the Canadian and the UK diasporas? And
yes, we are.
How
yes, we are.
Most definitely.
Efforts to date.
We have close connections with the consulate in Toronto. Whatever we do here in New York, we communicate with my good friend, Consul General in Toronto. All right. We also have.
Just to say to you that Consul General Huggins is listening, as he always does to this program and makes contributions.
Right. Yeah.
And he has indicated he has indicated that CG McIntosh will be calling in a while when we allow it.
Right. Beautiful. Yeah. So we communicate with him and other persons in Toronto, and even in England. We have friends in England, in positions in England that we communicate with what we're doing and what we intend to do, and they are 100% behind us. And whatever we need, we can call and speak with someone there, and we always get assistance, and we are going ahead to get what we want done in those places. So yes, we are communicating with people, not just in New York, but as we said, elsewhere.
Yeah, if I may just add, there is some public servant responsible or based in the regional diaspora unit, integrated diaspora unit here in St. Louis, right? I believe we do reports to which ministry, Cecil? I can't remember whether it's urban foreign affairs or urban affairs. But anyhow, so we do this because there are Vincentians in Trinidad, maybe even up in Poland and so forth, who have been making very important contributions. Like, for example, I know of someone, I'm not making a case for him by any means, but who was based in St. Vincent and did a lot in the area of the culinary arts, but he now resides in Tortola and so forth. I know he might be off the scene for fight, but the person may remember, somebody may written up and so on, but we need to get the message out as well.
Right.
To the Vincentians who live in the Caribbean. There's a side in Tortola, in Trinidad, Barbados, and so forth. You have to maybe redo it, maybe one channel through which it can be done, or otherwise there would be others. But I'm just don't forget the Caribbean islands.
No, because it's interesting that you mentioned. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just adding to that because we just got a message from Kojo over in California to remind you all, or to remind us all, that a number of Vincies who live on that side, on the west coast of the United States. So, that's a reminder from Kojo Mason.
Yeah. Right, that's interesting. Those two interjections there from Joel and Kojo. Yes, because the members of the Dynamites, our contact, we have everybody have more than 200 persons on their contacts. And when we send out messages, we send to all of our contacts. We've been sending messages to Barbados. We have persons in Barbados, St. Lucia, Grenada, Dominica, the Virgin Islands, and we have been getting response from all of those islands, especially with the nomination form, since we send that out. Persons have been calling and asking us, could we nominate more than 2 persons? Could we nominate them? So we have been, reaching out to the Caribbean. Not just North American citizens to Grenada, but as I say, we have persons, we have family. We send it to our families in Barbados. As you know, a lot of us have families living in Trinidad, Barbados, Grenada. So we've been doing that, and we have been getting responses. So we do hope that Vincentians living in those areas would be, considered, and persons would nominate them and stuff like that. But yes, we have been reaching far and wide.
Okay, good.
All right. Before we invite Council General McIntosh to call in, I'm just somebody just sent me a message on my phone. A question to you guys. Good morning. Listening as usual. Can you ask if any person would be exempted from being nominated? Example: a member on the nominations committee, or a member of the cultural organization, or a member of the Calypso tent. So that's a very specific question for you to respond.
Okay, Vice President, go.
No, that's why if I follow that question, yes, can a member of the Dynamite Calypso tent or a member of the Dynamite Cultural Organization be nominated for induction? Yes. That's why the selection, and so to ensure the integrity of the process, that's why the selection committee is not going to be solely based, solely be members of the organization, and it's going to be a combination of members of the organization and members of the general public. If we have a member of the organization, our esteemed president, former Calypso monarch, we have the manage. When we discussed it, we did not think that being a member of the organization should bar someone from being inducted into the Hall of Fame. That being a member of the organization doesn't diminish that individual's contribution and achievements. So yes, members can be nominated. We hope to preserve the integrity of the process, like we said, by making the selection committee a combination of members and the general public, so that we are not being seen to have sort of placed our hand on the scale, so to speak, in favor of any particular nominee.
Just to let you know that Coach Mason has asked me to share his telephone number with you. So, Rejector, you can expect to receive it sometime.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I have Coach in my contact too, man.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am from the General McIntosh. We're expecting a call from you. If you are in a position, you can call us now. In the meantime, we also want to open up our line to hear from other persons who are following the program. 457-9997 is the number to call. So we have a call now coming in. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm Council General McIntosh here.
Good.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Council General.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Council General. Welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. And a special hail to the Dynamite Calypso tent. They've been pretty active, and some of the bastions of keeping the Vincentian culture alive in the U.S. diaspora. So I really appreciate you guys and the support that you have given me over the past 2.5 years.
Thank you.
Are you there? Okay. Go ahead.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yes, I just called to lend my voice to the initiative that they're speaking about here, and anything that we can do, to just add to what is happening in Toronto, in the U.S. Diaspora, and the other areas in the U.S. outside of Brooklyn, because a lot of the energy and what is happening in the organizations and the groups seem to be concentrated in Brooklyn. We some in the Boston, the Philadelphia, the Washington D.C., the DMV area, the Florida, and I've been calling and using the voice of our deceased brother Von Tony, who has always said to me and to those in the diaspora that we need more groups, we need more organizations. And I am happy that Kojo is listening, because we need more strength coming from that side of the U.S. I know I have my brother who is the head of the Sampasa group, who is always in Brooklyn and part of the Gary Funa association as well, a part of CHIP and everything that they're doing. And we are looking for more organizations. As people reach out to me from New Jersey and the different areas, and I'm saying to them, the onus is on you. We will support you. To gather, find out who the Vincies are in your area and pull yourselves together, so that we can strengthen what is happening. Actually, 2 days ago, I met a young lady from the Monroe College in upstate New York. She's currently here in St. Vincent, and she had reached out to me about starting an association at the Monroe College because of the newfound relationship between the government and Monroe College in terms of the tuition assistance. So we have more Vincentians going there and just forming themselves into groups and organizations that we can support each other. So it is. I like what is happening. I like the focus. I like the energy and this newfound vibe that is going on across the diaspora. And with the closer link as I'm seeing it, and the rebuilding of that bridge between the diaspora and here in St. Vincent, and the airlines are helping a lot. The new airlines, the JetBlue, the Caribbean Airlines, the American Airlines, the flight, and we've seen the bumper traffic, between the returning nationals here in St. Vincent, that every single event was just filled with locals and returning nationals and visitors alike. So there's a lot that's happening, and I'm really enthused, about the diaspora.
All right, Council General. Thank you very much. You guys, any question for the Council General?
Well, not really. As you say, the Council General is always with us. He speak with us a lot. We meet in person, we chat, and he's at all of our functions. So we know we have his full support, and we know that we can call on him anytime, which we intend to do. So we would be seeing you, and you would be hearing from us.
Council General.
Yes, that is, yes, I see these guys all the time. We talk all the time. In everything that we are doing when we have our independence celebration. I reach out to the Dynamite College for their talents, and they're always supporting. And one of my major thrusts this year, with what is before us, a new administration, new leadership in the U.S., and how does that impact our diasporans is something that we are paying close attention to. And I've already been talking to immigration attorneys and just persons who can give us some advice and looking at what is happening so that they can give us a heads up that we can inform our diasporans. And the biggest trust for me this year is for every single Vincentian living in the diaspora. And I'm not just talking about the U.S., although the U.S. I think will be greatly impacted this year, but every single Vincentian national living in the U.S., I think they should get a Vincentian passport. It is so important to have that second passport because we allow dual citizenship, and not only for those who migrated to the U.S. who were born here, but also for the children and the grandchildren, because second generation is something this C.G. Huggins was very passionate about and would have pushed over the years. This has now been enacted. So these grandchildren, can now, get the Vincentian passport and just have it as a prized possession, just in case of anything. Also, we have a lot of descendants of our nationals who are playing sports, whether it be athletics and soccer. Actually, I was just having a conversation with someone recently whose son has been drafted, in football, and they would like that son to come home to represent St. Vincent. So I'm working to, to get that passport in their hands.
Football meaning soccer?
Soccer.
In soccer, yes. So we're just working to, to expedite stuff like that. And in our position, we do reach home to the head of immigration, sometimes to let them know of the importance. We ask the things to be expedited, so that we can bridge that gap as smoothly, make it as smoothly and transparent as possible. So I am really optimistic as to what is happening this year. I'm still in the land of the blessed. Just take a couple of days to tie up some ends here and be back in the US soon to continue the great work that we are doing.
All right, Consul General, thank you very much for contributing. All right then. Enjoy. Make sure you enjoy the sunshine and the warmth. I'm
definitely doing that because the photos I'm seeing on social media is not encouraging.
All right. So even as you're going out, we have Consul General Huggins calling in. So let me take his call. All right.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much.
Sure. Bye-bye. Yes, Consul General Huggins. Greetings to you.
Hi, morning, Cecil. Morning.
Well, it's actually afternoon for us, but we take it anyway.
John and Joel.
Yeah, greetings.
Good morning, guys.
Greetings, Fitz.
Yeah, I'm listening to this excellent program because it emanates from the diaspora and a very dynamic group as well.
That's right.
So, I want to compliment Carlos Rejector.
Thank you.
He's right in what he said before, that we've always been in contact. He tags me on everything, and we share everything that they're doing, and it shows how much we care about representing our country out here, and as representatives in the diaspora, and following on from my brother in Luther. We talk pretty much every day, and one of the things we are passionate about, and I could feel the passion every day coming out from Luther about what we can do extra to advance the cause of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and to uplift the diaspora. Luther's gone to a job that, a lot of people had their doubts, but everybody would agree now that the man has risen to the challenge and he's doing true. I want to compliment him on how quickly he has immersed himself in that constituency. And the future is bright. The future is bright. So Luther, big up yourself. As far as this initiative is concerned, Carlos and the committee, Dopey, are you there still?
Yes, he's still there.
Man, we're not ready. I saw my brother Dopey not too long ago, and he's looking so young and
Thank you.
Well, as far as this initiative is concerned, you guys can depend on us on this side of the as Trump puts it, the imaginary line. To give you full support. I'm hoping that this year we will see the Dynamite's Calypso tent represented at our Vinci picnic. That will be a real true representation of how the should work together and uplift the culture. What I like about this initiative, it's driven by not the government and a governmental organization. It's driven by somebody in the diaspora. It shows that if these guys in the diaspora could think about driving this initiative, how much more our Calypso tents and organizations could lift themselves up and follow suit. And so I really appreciate this effort, and you can depend on our support and decide the defense. I will listen to the rest of the program and give it my full blessing, and let's continue to talk and develop and lift each other up. All right, guys. So good program. Continue.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Council General.
Thank you.
We look forward.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to note too. One of the things I want to note, because this came up for extensive discussion internally. We talked about the involvement of the youth in this particular project. And so, a Hall of Fame is essentially lifetime achievement. I mean, and the criteria for halls of fame in general are designed to recognize commitment to the particular area of induction that has been sustained through time and tangible achievement. And so this is to our young emerging artists. While the Hall of Fame will not induct emerging talent, this is not this does not diminish the importance of emerging talent. What we hope that the Hall of Fame will do, that their perspective will be on the Hall of Fame, is that it will sort of like set a benchmark and be aspirational for them. Set the benchmark for their aspirations and their ambitions. And so, while the Hall of Fame will not induct emerging artists, we're hoping that it serves as an inspiration for to set the benchmark as to where they should aspire in terms of the quality and the longevity and the sustainability of their careers and their involvement, regardless of their field of endeavor.
All right, so guys, we're going to continue, but I want to alert you that I'm going to invite PM Gonzalez to join the discussion at around 12:30. So note that. In the meantime, I'm inviting others to call who wish to call the program, 457-9997. That's the direct number and also the WhatsApp number. And you can also send us a message at that number if you wish to engage our colleagues who are with us on the program via video link. All right. In the meantime, gentlemen, any point you want to emphasize?
Yeah, we just like to further encourage people to look for the nomination form. It's available online. You can go to YouTube. You can go to the Dynamite's Facebook page. Reach out to any member of the Dynamites.
Go ahead. We just have to interrupt you because we have a call.
Sure. Go right ahead. That's important.
Greetings, Kojo. Welcome to the program.
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning, Papa Kojo.
Good morning to everyone on the panel.
Sure.
Good
morning.
I think because of California size, we need to devise some kind of system where we could have at least 4 of the same type of organization. Because, for me to attend a meeting in Los Angeles, I have to drive 6 hours. And now that there's Zoom, a lot of time the people, I don't know, it's like we get too busy in our own self and we don't communicate to each other as we used to. Our organization that we had, they had a little bit of mishap with money, how it goes with money. And since that mishap, the organization failed to function as it used to. Like, we don't even have independence celebrations or anything like that. I mean, I've tried my best to get things going, I mean, I have my own little group who we call, can call the Caribbean Roots and Culture, because in truth of fact, my Vincentian population out here is so small that I have most of the people who come to my function is not a Caribbean island people. So that my group is not consists of just Vincentian only, But I'll try my best to see what I could muster up for the April thing, because I'm gonna go call Dr. Gill from today and see if we could come up with some kind of thing to support this this venture, because I was here to know that we on this side miss out on that, something of that nature. So I'm going to do my best, and if I could put a little group in together, just even if it's just for this session only, and see if we could build on it after that. But I'll see what we could do to make sure something happens on this side.
Sure.
All right?
Sure.
Can I respond to Kojo?
Good to hear from you, Kojo. I was wondering whether or not you're safe concerning the
Fires.
fires that are taking place in California.
Just like I said, it takes me 6 hours to drive to a meeting. It will take me about 8 hours to drive to where that fire is.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Coach, that's easier.
From the fire.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I hope.
Can I respond to Kojo? Can I offer Kojo a little bit of advice?
Sure you can.
Okay. Here on the East Coast, all of us are not in the same place. And we use Zoom or WhatsApp to communicate. And we do get good responses. So if you could use that form, social media, and then you select a time when you can have a face-to-face, because I'm in the Carolinas and we have one guy in Toronto, another guy in Boston, and we do have meetings where everyone participates and we get their involvement. So maybe you could try that.
And that's the point. And that's the point I was making. I said sometimes we get too busy in our own self, so we tend not to put the time out for each other. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to get people to understand that the technology today now is not like before. I don't have to drive to you, and you don't have to drive to me. We could have a meeting without seeing each other. I mean, we could see each other, but virtually. You know,
That's right.
I'm going to see what we can do. All right,
Kojo.
Yeah, Kojo, and feel free to keep in touch with the Dynamites, man. You know, we have you on our page and stuff like that. So, you know, we would communicate, especially with this event. We will communicate with you even closer. All right. Glad to know that you're a part of it, and you would love to be, you know, integrally, involved. So we would work towards that. Thank you very much.
Anything for my Vinci culture, man.
That I know. I know who's speaking to, man. I know. That I know. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, Kojo. Have a good day. And a safe one, of course. We just want to, while we're waiting on the other calls, including the one from Prime Minister, let me read a few messages, well, at least one. This one is coming from Willis Williams. It's saying, "Good day, gentlemen. It's a pleasure listening to the officials of the Dynamites. It's lovely to see the progressive movement from Mo Calypso tent to full-fledged cultural organization. I'm happy to hear from my old classmate, Peter Buck. He and Pijan will know what the second P is for." Well, sorry. Let me read it again. Peter, let me read it again. Peter P.
That is true. Anytime anybody calls me by that second P, I know I went to school with them.
Not yet. I just want to take the opportunity to congratulate the organization on taking this next step, and I wish them every success. Now, Peter, you have tell us what the P is.
I was saying that anytime anybody calls me by that second P, I know I went to school with them.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me what the P is about. Tell us what the P is about.
No, we got that. That's a grammar school thing, so we got to keep it there.
All right.
I want to thank Willis.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank Willis for that, those words of encouragement. And we do, look forward to continue doing our work and, the furtherance of it. Thank you again, Willis, for your observation.
Yeah.
Joel, you may have knowledge of this P.
Well,
don't share.
No. I although Pijan did mention it a short while ago, I'm not going to repeat, but I am very much aware because I knew Peter as a little boy, very little boy,
okay,
in Montrose and in grammar school. Oh, and by the
Yes.
way, just wanted to say two of the three, without prejudice to Dopey, that two of the three persons from the Dynamites are actually were resident citizens of New Montrose. That's very important to say that.
Okay.
Yes, it is. It is. It is very important.
True.
It is very important. There's a very strong Montrose and
Montrose
Sion Hill
presence. Yeah,
connection in the Dynamite organization.
So
Yeah,
Very
true.
strong.
yep. Let them
Oh,
know.
let me remind our listeners the numbers. The number to call is 457-9997. You can call us there on WhatsApp, the regular means. And we are waiting maybe another 2-3 minutes. We'd like you to hear from Prime Minister Gonzalez. In the meantime, we can continue our conversation here. Yes. Gentlemen, so the first exercise will take place on February 14th.
Yeah.
What's it
No,
going to be
April
like?
19th.
Sorry,
No,
April.
it's not. No, but the first exercise you're talking
Yeah,
about
right,
the
Peter.
end of
April
nomination.
19th. No. I was referring to the April
Oh, okay,
19th
great. Right,
exercise.
okay.
Beyond April 19th, what's going to happen?
Well,
Well,
actually, prior to
go
April
ahead.
19th, we do have our panel discussion. We do host a panel discussion every year
Yeah.
on topics important to culture and to the homeland and the diaspora. This year's panel discussion is going to be is scheduled for the last Sunday in February,
February.
and it will focus on this very topic, the importance of establishing a cultural hall of fame
Cultural Hall
for
of
St.
Fame.
Vincent and Grenadines. So that's going to be our first event. That's going to be followed by by the Cultural Hall of Fame. Following that, we'll have the official launch of the Dynamite Calypso tent for the
Episode 10.
2025
I see.
season.
Season.
From following the launch, we go into our preliminary judging. We usually facilitate the judges coming up from St. Vincent and Grenadines to judge the tent in the preliminaries. We have a summer backyard jam
Backyard.
and barbecue scheduled for around the Labor Day festivities here, and we wrap the year typically with our Christmas program
Not forgetting our bingo in November.
and our bingo.
Our,
Sorry, yes, our bingo,
our highly anticipated bingo.
anticipated bingo.
Yep.
So we
So
do
we
we
have a
do
lot.
we do have a full slate of activities planned throughout the year.
Okay, gentlemen, any other question that you want to field?
I would like just to add. Oh, sorry. I was just going to add to Peter the panel discussion in February. That would be held on Zoom because we want to
Yes.
get a broad section of the public to participate. So we would be having that on Zoom, and that would be February the 25th, Sunday. And we said we would start around 4 p.m. 4 p.m. North America time, 5 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time, so that would be held on Zoom, and it's going to be a very interesting discussion. As Peter said, it would be based on this event that we are planning here, Cultural Hall of Fame, the importance of it. So just
What
like
can
that
we
person to
expect
know.
in terms of the tent? What can we expect in terms of the casts and the renditions?
For the carnival time?
Yes.
Well, all the Calypsonians in the organization right now are working feverishly on our songs, our renditions, our contributions for Carnival time. As a matter of fact, just before this program started, I got a call from one of our Calypsonians. He called me to say he's heading to the studio. So I tell him, okay, all the best, and I'll hear what's your outcome later. So we are all working feverishly on our music for 2025. So, and I have a little preview of most of them, and I could say what I've heard. I know we're gonna have a bumper season in terms of the quality of calypso coming out of the Dynamites is going to be great, and I could only tell the public to look out for something. It's going to be real powerful calypsos coming from the Dynamites, this year, or what I've heard. So we're going to have a good year.
Joel is shaking his head silently. He doesn't.
Well, Joel, we always have good guys, Joel know that.
I imagine the plane full coming up. This is
great.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Because one of our things, one of our thing that we try to work on, and what we are trying to increase is to involve people here more and more to travel home for a carnival. We try to put it around support for the Dynamites, but it's a support. Go home, let's go home, enjoy home. It's carnival time. Let's go home and have a bumper time, and stuff like that. In 2019. We had some communications with couriers, if I could say that. Joel, you should remember that in terms of potential sponsorship, and we were speaking to couriers, letting them know that a certain program they have, which we thought was more suited for advertising here in the diaspora, and they agreed. And the thing was to encourage people to come home, to persons who returning home. Couriers going to facilitate them in a certain way. We don't want to use your program to advertise it, but and it was well agreed, and they saw what we were talking about of encouraging persons to come home, and it definitely could work. And that's what we continue to do. At all of our shows that we have, backyard events, what have you, we always encourage people to travel home. We are going home for Carnival. Let's go home. Come support the Dynamite. Because we have a big following here in the diaspora. When we have shows, we have persons travel from Florida. We have persons come from Boston, Toronto. We had a backyard event just not too long ago here. Just before the summer ended, we had persons driving from Toronto overnight to get here for the next day. It was great, so we have a huge following here in the diaspora. So that's what we do. We try to encourage people to let's go to St. Vincent for Carnival. Let's go to St. Vincent for Christmas. Let's go, so that's what we're about. That's what we're about.
Well, you just gave an idea. I'm no longer associated directly with tourists, but you gave an idea that I can share with them, and hopefully one of them would get in touch with you sometime soon.
They've been making efforts to continue it, and we're definitely planning to take it back up with them and stuff like that. So a little injection from you should go along with it. Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem.
Mm-hmm. To what extent, Rejector, are you all? Well, I think I asked this question before, but I asked it again. With the diaspora committee. Are you working directly with them? I'm talking about Cheryl and Hayward.
Well, we all consult with whatever we're doing. Excuse me, sorry. Whatever we do in the Dynamites, we have consultations with all the other organizations. As a matter of fact, some members of the Dynamites are also members of the diaspora committee, right? Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. I think we're having a call now from the PM. Let me just.
Great. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Prime Minister. Greetings.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good afternoon to
Good afternoon.
On the panel. I don't know if Peter is still on and my brethren Rejector.
They're all there.
Yes, I'm still here, sir.
How are you doing, Rejector? How are the family?
Everybody's good, man. We are taking it easy, enjoying the cold, trying to keep a bit warm though, and listening to following everything you're doing and all
that I want to be there with you, enjoying the cold. I don't particularly like the cold, but I know you have to take all the seasons.
True.
Yes, we do.
Once you're in North America.
That's right.
Yes, we do, sir.
Cecil and Ejon and Joel, it always pleases me immensely to see our nationals at home and abroad developing their non-governmental bodies, their non-governmental organizations. In the case of Dynamites, to see the metamorphosis from the Calypso 10 to something wider in a cultural organization. And I know they're not going to be able to do everything, because if you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing.
True.
And clearly, there's certain areas which they have chosen to focus upon. One of my observation over the years, that it is the genius, and I think it's something factual, it's the genius of our people which really sustains us. That genius which emerges from our civilization, our Caribbean civilization and its Vincentian component. That genius which manifests itself in life, in living, in production, in the creative arts, in performing arts, in calypsos, in all the different dimensions of cultural and productive activities. So that I'm looking forward very much to see this particular project, which is being advanced, the one for the Hall of Fame, which complements and supplements a lot of other activities, both of a state and non-state nature, taking place in our Vincentian community at home and abroad. And I really look forward to seeing the details, and I am sure that the Minister of Culture, following upon the current Minister of Culture, following upon the support which Rennie Batiste had given in earlier periods to Dynamites and to other Calypso 10s, and what Luther is doing in New York. I'm sure that the current Minister of Culture, Carlos James, would engage meaningfully with Dynamites. And I'm also pretty sure that the Prime Ministerial Advisory Council on Youth, which has a very strong cultural component in its advisory responsibilities, that they would also engage, if to the extent that Dynamites would wish them to be, because this is a non-governmental activity, but it touches and concerns everyone really, and I look forward very much to see how it pans out, and I think it's going to get a lot of support from ordinary people. It's important that the structures are built in a way to ensure its sustainability. You know, what we don't want to have is something stop and start, and I'm sure that Project and Peter and the rest of the organization, that they will be ensuring this too. I believe with support from everyone concerned, that would be achieved. You know, and parallel, Cecil, as I was mentioning to you this morning, there are several items which we have inside of our budget for 2025, which going to strengthen further the base of culture, the institutional arrangements, and also actual outpourings. We have in the budget an initial sum of $500,000, where we are going to begin the process of establishing a national orchestra, and we want to have a national choir. And persons in the diaspora can help. I mean, I'll tell you this, there's a young lady who just last week here, I was going through, several files had come before me, for second generation citizenship applications. And one of them concerns a young lady out of the United Kingdom whose grandparents are from Caruth in St. Vincent. And her mother was born in England, and her father is a Nigerian, and she's formally trained in music. And one of her latest compositions, she's only 32, 33. She goes between London and Germany. When I read it and her accompanying letter and all the supporting documents for her citizenship, I telephoned her because she had just done a piece. She had written a piece which the London Symphony Orchestra put on at the Barbican Centre in London. And I asked her naturally if she'd like to be engaged in this particular exercise, and she of course should be excited too. So all across the whole of the diaspora in different dimensions, we are seeing this tremendous outpouring, and it is greater than ever before that I'm witnessing it. And the non-governmental, the governmental, all of these things are dovetailing together. It's like tributaries coming to a mighty river. In a cultural sense, this year too, we will commence the construction of the major cultural, educational, and production hub at Bellevue and two satellite ones in Chomoka and Pitibadel. And as the port, when we finish the major port in June this year and open it, we have a development plan for where the real estate by the old port and part of that development, which we are at the moment now fleshing out, would be a major cultural center, because we didn't have the space to do something really proper. But we're going to have the real estate there where we can do other things around it. And a whole big development there. And as always, when one big one is finishing, one big one has started, we're exploring others. And then they're going to be we're going to build in other cultural, educational, wellness centers, kind of upgrading what we have as the learning resource centers. So I'm talking about some things physical, and then something like, for instance, the National Orchestra. Clearly, we'll continue to build Pan Against Crime, which we started a few years ago, and which has contributed tremendously to the expansion and development of Pan in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Carnival 2025. Last week I had a discussion with Carlos James, and said to him that we need to ensure that all the institutional and other supportive pieces be quickly put in place. They are there, but I'm talking about their activation at an optimal level, because Carnival in 2024 was somewhat truncated because of burial, and we had, of course, in recent times with COVID and with the volcanic eruptions in April 2021. So I think it's a year, if we keep our fingers crossed, Joel, Pijan, Cecil, and other brethren, if we keep our fingers crossed that we don't have any kind of a disaster or an emergency, we should be trying to make this one, as Renee used to say, bigger and better. and I think all the elements are there to make it so. We just have to organize it properly. Simultaneously, when you create enthusiasm in saying the cultural field in all kind of different inputs, other things which are happening among young people, and into sports too, all of them contribute. I mean, we're going to finish go to a different phase of the build out, including with lights out at the Sir Vincent Beach Stadium at Diamond, and we have some things to do still at Arnersville, including with the netball court and the current facility which we have expanded with the cricket. But we are having some other initiatives. For instance, we're going to have an initial over $250,000 to the state, but we're going to have it supported by state institutions, companies, statutory bodies, national lottery, for instance. But we put in $250,000 in the budget for something called FAST Fund, Future Athlete Support and Training Fund. People like, for instance, Shafika Maloney, whom I've been in touch with over the whole period to make sure that things are okay with her, with Handel Ruben and the others, Gio Davis, who are coming along and so forth. And working with the Football Federation, we are going to establish with them a semi-professional football league, which we're going to put in almost $1 million, and we're going to do a similar thing with netball, which would put in another $200,000. Netball is a smaller competition, but similar for the women, similar semi-professional league. And there's a specific program which we're calling GIVE, GYVE, Greater Youth Volunteerism and Engagement, where we put in $1.5 million in to spur greater youth volunteerism, and several other initiatives, but these are some of the major ones which I'm highlighting in this regard. In fact, for this year, both on the recurrent and capital side, in the area of recreation and culture, is almost $41 million. It's a big number, which we're putting together. So, in a sense, in some ineffable way, this activity which is having its genesis out of dynamite is part of the outpouring from the genius of our people to build things and to provide recognition in some sustainable way of our persons who have made immense contributions in this specific area in culture. And broadly speaking, for young people, I mean in education alone, this year we are having $258.9 million. Pigeon, hear that number, $258.9 million.
Yes.
It's a big number. In the area of tertiary, post-secondary and university education, where last year we had budgeted $45 million for those together. In this year's budget is $60 million, giving you, even though while we are rebuilding our houses and so on, after burial and putting in the income support and production support, we can't lose sight of our strategic objectives, one of which is to have a paradigm shift in the economy, which is an ongoing process, based on an unlimited supply of educated and skilled labor, priced at a competitive level in the International Division of Labor. Without that, we're not going to move. And once you're talking about that kind of money in education, in human resources, you have to develop the accompanying handmaidens, which is sports and culture and health and housing. It follows as the night follows day, and that is the frame in which we are proceeding. So this particular initiative by Dynamites I don't see it in an isolated sense. I see it as part of an overall menu of initiatives from non-governmental and non-state and state sectors. The other things we could talk about the budget, but I wanted, in the light of the discussion which is taking place this morning, that I emphasize those particular dimensions. I don't know if the brethren from Dynamites are still on.
Yeah,
Yeah, we are,
Yes,
sir.
we are.
Yeah,
We are, sir.
All right. You may have any queries. You may have any asks of me. I haven't seen the Carlos, Peter. I haven't seen the documentation in relation to the proposal, and I'd love to see the documentation. But certainly, from what I've heard this morning, and from what I've heard bits and pieces before, I think it is something which is very worthwhile, and I want to commend you guys. Well, men and in your organization.
Thank you for those words of encouragement,
very,
sir.
very much.
Thank you very much. And what you said, a lot of what you said is in keeping with our own thought process. Because the institutional recognition of being inducted into the Hall of Fame, it's from our perspective, it not only validates the contribution of the individuals and the groups that will be inducted, but it also, touching on the educational aspect, it creates a repository for knowledge that can be accessed by schools, cultural organizations, and the wider community. Through things possibly, like exhibition, workshop, other educational programs that can be tied directly to the Hall of Fame. We can engage the next generation with the traditions and practices that define Vincentian culture. By facilitating interactions, say with established artists. Rejected can possibly come home and do our workshop on writing. We have between Rejecter, the Manage, Oscar. We have we have pushing maybe a century of talent. Pisano, Ulrich Hamlet, J. Key. We have, like I said, a century of talent within the organization that we are always ready and willing to make available to help the next generation to develop their artistic abilities and move the nation forward. So again, sir, thank you for those words of encouragement. What you said is indeed in keeping with our own aspirations for the project.
I want to make a larger point and connect with what Luther said, not just with the election of Trump, but that is a manifestation of what we are seeing. In modern globalization, grounded on monopoly capitalism, has been seeking for the last 30 or 40 years very intensely to see if they can have globally a homogenized culture.
Yeah.
A culture, a one world culture, but defined in the image of the rich 1 billion people in the world. Or the countries which have 1 billion people, but there are 8 billion people. And while it is important that in our life and living and our production, that we have interconnections with all the cultures and all the processes in the world. We have to identify and protect within this huge sums of money going to have a homogenized, one culture for the world. We have to defend and promote our Caribbean and Vincentian particularity.
True.
Yes.
Otherwise, our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will find that our memory, our collective memory, which involves our cultural memory, is erased. And we will find ourselves becoming, quote unquote, enslaved in a manner with our own willingness and by our own omission to be more vigorous in defending and promoting our own cultural particularity. I'm not calling for a cultural chauvinism, because we must read George Lamin, and we must have the poetry of Shakespeare, and we must also read Shakespeare, because we have to. Part of our education, one of the first functions of an education, is to train critical minds to receive and transmit universal culture, but with a Caribbean and Vincentian, in our case Vincentian, particularity. So we ain't taking yourself off from a global train, because it's impossible so to do. You yourself being in America, you realize that. But that does not mean that we must not defend and promote our particularity, and must train our mind fit to receive universal culture, not just American or European culture, universal culture, including science and technology. But we do so with our Caribbean particularity, in the way in which calypso and steel band and reggae and soca, they made important contributions, in the way in which the poets and novelists with their own distinct voices and their creative imagination, they have made important contribution to world culture. After all, St. Lucian, Derek Walcott is Nobel Prize winner. Naipaul, though he's of a different, he was an Anglophile in a sense, and didn't see a lot of good coming from our own particular culture. But yet he wrote in a Caribbean idiom too, or with cadences from the Caribbean, and you hear it, even some of the ideas are backward in St. Naipaul as compared to, say, Walcott or Lamin or Shakespeare or Danny Williams or Blazer Williams, or and the younger poets like Zena Lewis and so on and so forth, Marcella Dublin. So I think the work that you guys are doing, as you notice, I'm conceptualizing it in a wider frame.
True. Yeah.
All right. I want, before I leave your program today, I want to just let us remember together that 10 years ago today, on January the 12th, a bus taking children from Fancy careened off the road and went into the sea, and 7 of them died.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a vigil last night. I wasn't able to attend it, but I've been associated in connection with the parents, who I've kept in touch with over the last 10 years. But they're having an event today at Fancy, and I'll go to that. Last night I had to be at the Prime Ministerial Advisory Council on Youth had their awards. It was a fantastic event, which is all, and the cultural performances there. I mean, Carlos, Rejecta, you're blow your mind.
I heard about it. I heard about it, and I saw some of the video early this morning. I think it was exceptional.
absolutely extraordinary. I don't think I've ever look at it.
I saw some of that.
But I want today to remember their names. I don't have to look at a piece of paper because they're etched in my heart and my mind. And these young people would have been either at university or finish university in building their professional careers had they been alive. And I'm talking about Jamal and Jamali Edwards, Anik Alexander, Raquel Ashton, Glenroy Michael, Simonique Ballantyne, and Chantasia Stay. What we are doing here today is also in memory of those young people and joining too at the same time the hope and aspirations of all the young people in the world, but of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in particular. You know, an old friend of mine, Rejecter, William Wordsworth, I have many old friends, said bliss was it that dawned to be alive, but to be young was very heaven.
True.
For persons like me, it's blissful for me to be alive, and for you to reject her.
True, yeah.
But the condition of the young is heavenly, and all of this is contributing to bringing them to an appreciation of this heavenly condition.
Yes.
And to take them away, the tiny minority who take a path of nefarious conduct or criminal violence. I've never seen anybody who involved seriously in a Calypso tent, in a mass band, in a scout troop, in the cadet corps, in church groups, in playing football or cricket. I haven't seen them in front of the magistrate court or in front of the high court with serious criminal offenses.
So true, so
All
true.
of these things are tied together. I rejected a long time in a see you, man.
I know, man. Well, I saw you last time.
When you come here, you're not going to look for the comrade.
Remember, most time I come up, now you out. But I saw you. Remember we saw last year when the band was coming down the street.
Yes.
We saw each other. Yeah, remember that. Yeah. Don't brief it was, you know.
You know, Cecil.
Listening.
I know Rejecter since he's a youth, you know.
I know that. I know that.
We had we had very close ties. Yeah.
You know?
Very close ties.
Very close.
Yep.
My brethren. Thank you
so much. Sure. Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for your words of comfort and
Thank
your
you
words of
so much
encouragement.
for your words of encouragement. Yes.
And we'll make sure that a copy of the document reaches your desk.
All right.
Absolutely.
I'm concerned about practical issues like financing, which P. John raised, because he's always a practical man. And about sustainability.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Yes.
Mr. Prime Minister. Thursday estimates into Friday morning.
Yes.
Saturday, Venezuela, Maduro's inauguration. Last night at the Youth Awards. How do you make it, sir?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I'm very strong. I'm very thankful that I have good genes.
Yeah.
The truth is this. On Friday, I got up 4 o'clock in the morning, finalizing things in preparation for Parliament, which ran from 9 a.m. till Friday morning at 3 a.m. I had 2 hours sleep. And then I had to rush to the airport to get a ride to go to Caracas. And then I came back from Caracas, and then I had an active day on Saturday, including Saturday night, and I just finished reading this morning the draft of the speech, the budget address of the Minister of Finance, and sent it to him with my comments and notations. He's putting its final touches, and I'm leaving shortly to go to Fancy. Pijan is the hand that I've been given to play.
Okay.
I don't really like time wasting, and I don't like lazy people. I have never eaten from the bread of idleness. And if you notice that sometimes I'm impatient with such persons, is because there's so many things to be done, and we have to try not to leave behind any unfinished task. At least so the hymn writer teaches. But I'm managing Pijan.
Okay, sir.
I will sleep in the vehicle going to Fancy.
And may I invite you, Mr. PM, to remind our motorists to buckle up.
Remind them to buckle up. I agree with you. Remind them to buckle up and be careful on the road. All right.
All right, Prime Minister, thank you very much for contributing. All right, then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. PM. Thank you,
gentlemen, we have gone about just 9 minutes, under 10 minutes beyond our cutoff point, but I'm sure you guys have rounded up statements or points to make. Peter,
if we can expand on something that the Prime Minister said, that was also part of our internal discussions, which fueled the project. We recognize, the Prime Minister intimated that the culture is not innate. It has to be passed on to each successive generation, and that's part of the impetus for the Hall of Fame project, to make sure that we are part of the process of instilling a sense of pride, in their culture, in the next generation, and encouraging them to, as I said earlier, pursue their endeavors, whatever the sphere is, right? We need to impress upon Vincentians, regardless to where they may be. As the name says, it's the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Cultural Hall of Fame. We met with one of our sponsors yesterday, and his thought was that somehow it would have been somehow maybe confined to the New York diaspora. Let me reiterate, underscore, no. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Cultural Hall of Fame, it is open to all Vincentians, home in the homeland, mainland St. Vincent, all the Grenadine Islands, wherever you may be. When you log in to the more information aspect on the flyer, the first criteria is the nominee's connection to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The nominee's connection to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Right. So once you have contributed, the threshold in terms of the number of years is 15 years. Once you have made a sustainable, impactful contribution to your field, your realm of culture, and you have deep, abiding, generational ties with the homeland, with the nation, you are eligible for induction. Thank you.
All right, and the connection point, you mentioned social media.
Yes.
Yes.
And also go on to the Dynamite's Calypso 10 Facebook pages.
Yes, you can on the Dynamite Calypso Facebook page, and we also on YouTube. We set it up on YouTube and all the other social media sites. Whichever one you choose to go, we have provided forms, availability of the forms there, so persons can fill them out, and when you press send, it comes right back to us. and stuff like that. We also have some physical form that we are putting in places here in New York, that so some persons are not too well with the internet and what have you, they would rather fill out the physical form. So we also have some available at drop-off points.
How long is the form, Rejector? Sorry for interrupting. How long is the form? Is it more than is a page or?
It's about 2 pages.
Oh, the reason why I asked is whether or not it could be placed in the a local newspaper.
Well, what we have something for the local newspaper where we send, but it's in the Vincentian also this weekend.
The announcement, yeah.
Right, we're announcing the Hall of Fame and stuff like that.
But I think Joel is referring to the actual page
form, right? Yeah, but it's not in the paper as yet. But we intend to make it widely available, and that show one of the options.
Available.
One of the things because of the PRO.
Also at home in Vinci. That's it, right?
Widely available, home and abroad. Yes, home and abroad.
Yes.
One of the things that I want to touch on before we leave is that tickets are now available also for the induction gala, and to the first tickets are $130, but to the first 100, we are selling you at a discount rate of $110. So we expect this is going to be a hot item. So be part of that first 100 and get your tickets for the induction gala on April 19th at that reduced price of $110.
What currency?
US currency. US currency. But we will accept euros. We will accept euros.
If you're paying from Vinci, from home, if you expect it to be in US currency or EC currency.
US currency.
That's a joke, gentlemen. But let's say
there's nothing wrong with a couple of us trying to make it to the gala, to this very special event on April 19th.
Yes.
To come up from St. Vincent.
Nothing wrong with that. We encourage that.
Especially where you have options available for travel, like JetBlue.
Most definitely.
American Airlines, Caribbean Airlines, and so on and so forth.
And a visa.
Yeah.
Most
All
definitely.
right, let's say from Dopey, any final words so we can...
None really. It's just that we all have to work together to ensure that this comes off the way that we expect it to. And it was a pleasure listening and speaking to you guys. At the same time, I would like to know, is PJ Philbert John?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Excuse me for a minute. When I introduced myself, I didn't realize that was you. I used to be a cadet officer at one point in time.
I keep thinking about that. Why didn't ask?
All right.
You're asking me, right?
Yes, Timothy.
Timothy, yes. Timothy was very good. One of my best friends.
All right.
Yes.
So, Projector, final roundup comments.
Well, I would like to thank you, Mr. Ryan, Mr. John, and Mr. Providence for hosting us today. We are very grateful for the opportunity you have given us to express ourselves and to make the public more aware of what we are doing. It's something that we appreciate deeply, and we do look forward to more opportunities like this. To all of your listeners and viewers, we want to thank you for listening and being a part of the program today. We would like to thank the Prime Minister for his encouraging words and for all that he continued to do for us, because he, as he said, he's been my friend for many years, from since I was a youth, and he has been contributing to the art form. Through me, I've been asking him, for assistance for my Calypso tent back home, the Onto Calypso tent, in the early years, and he's always been a strong supporter of the Onto Calypso tent and culture, and he continues to be, and I'm grateful, and I know the entire organization, Dynamite's organization, very grateful, for the contribution of him, Miss Batiste, and all the others at home, you guys. So we want to thank you very much, and we look forward to the continued support as we continue to do and support the culture of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
All right. And on that note, we want to thank certainly the Prime Minister for contributing to our discussion today. Thank you guys from the Dynamite Cultural Organization for seeing it fit to be with us on the program this morning. It has been a wonderful program, and if I miss it, so Pigeon would agree with me, and Joel likewise. We've had a good program, and as you know, our reach is wide. And we thank you all for being part of it. We thank the management of Star FM and Garfin Radio that carry the program as well. And of course, we always have to thank our colleague here in studio, Kieran, sorry, Kieran, I'm missing him there for a little bit. Kieran, for setting up things and making sure that things go.
Could you allow me to end with a quote from Posky?
Yes,
that
go
is
ahead.
Peter Buck.
So Peter, this is where the P comes in now. Oh, it's going to be revealed.
That's where the P comes in.
Yeah, but I want to repeat this. I think it's very important. Culture is not innate. It has to be passed on to the next generation.
True.
I like that statement you made.
Most definitely.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And we've had a good program this morning. All the best. My name is Cecil Ryan. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.